I follow a channel on YouTube called Football Analysis, and the other day I was scrolling through my recommended when I found this video called Why the New Orleans Saints' Future is Extremely Concerning. I held off on reacting to it because I thought it would be a cool idea as a Saints fan myself to watch the video in its entirety and give my feedback and opinions on what he thinks my team's future looks like, as well as how they're built for the 2025 season going forward. If you guys like watching my content, I would highly recommend going to check out his channel. He makes really cool, informative videos on all things football related. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below, as well as it'll pop up, I believe, right here. You can click on that and it'll take you straight to his channel. With all that being said, let's get started.
The New Orleans Saints finished the 2024 season with a 5-12 record and missed the playoffs for the 4th straight year. It wasn't a surprise they missed the playoffs, but what was a surprise was how they started the 2024 season, then completely fell off the wagon.
It's crazy and sad to think about too. I think most people would say that the Saints going into the season were not going to be good. And then it's crazy to think about because the fact that we dominated like this those first 2 weeks was absolutely absurd. So much so that we broke NFL records on teams winning by that much of a margin through the first 2 weeks of the regular season. But it's sad to think about because going into week 4 through the first 3 weeks, so many people, Saints fans and non-Saints fans included, so hopeful that the Saints had good potential to be a good contender going into the NFC because we dominated through the first 2 weeks. You can't look that over. And then we put up a really close game against what would end up being the national champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, who were at the time the favorites in the NFC. So it's crazy to think about because the fact that a team as bad as us could dominate like that was absolutely insane to watch. But it's sad to think about because we had so much potential and it all got lost due to, it was a bunch of different things that happened last season. Injuries, the Eric McCoy injury in week 3 in particular kind of set the catalyst for the rest of the season. Derek Carr was never the same after he got injured because then the rest of the offensive line started to get injured and we made a bunch of shifts and changes and whatnot. Chris Olave had a career low year when he was playing. Rashid Shaheed got hurt. As a Saints fan, it's just crazy and sad to look back at. This video is sponsored by SeatGeek, and you can use my promo code 2GOLD to get $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the #1 ticketing app available to all users, so they got you covered on whatever live event you could want to go to. Basketball games, football games, soccer games, concerts, plays, literally any live event you can think of, SeatGeek has you covered. I've personally been using SeatGeek for years now, mainly to go to basketball games and college football games, and I would recommend SeatGeek to anyone who needs tickets to a live event. SeatGeek is also extremely easy to use. Let me show you. When you pull up the app, it'll show you all the trending events happening in your area, or you could just look up whatever event you want to go to. Let's say, for example, I want to go to the Pelicans game against the Warriors this Friday. You click on the Warriors-Pelicans game, and it'll pull up a picture of the arena with all the prices on each seat. You can even zoom into the specific seat you want to go to if you know exactly where you're going to sit, or you can just sort by whatever you want to sort by: price, best seats, or deal score, a specific tool that SeatGeek uses to give you the best deals possible. So let's say, for example, I want to sort by price, get the cheapest price. Boom, 1 ticket for $52. I can easily just go to a Pelicans game just like that. Or if you want the best seat possible, you can back out, sort by best seats. If you got money like that, you click on the best deal available, whatever deal floats your boat, whatever seat floats your boat. Boom, just like that, you're ready to go. And before you know it, SeatGeek has you covered for whatever event you need to go to. And if you're making a first-time purchase, you can use my promo code 2GOLD, that's TWO GOLD, for $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. And thank you again to SeatGeek for sponsoring another video on this channel.
During the first 2 games of the year, they put up 91 total points and had victory margins of 37 points over the Panthers in week 1 and 25 points over the Cowboys in Dallas in week 2. People may not remember this, but after the first 2 games, there were a lot of wild thoughts about the 2024 Saints and how far they could go. People were talking about how Clint Kubiak was hitting his stride and that he was the next offensive mastermind and that Derek Carr was going to have a career year and that the Saints...
That would have been tough though. I know the trajectory that the Saints were on and how good he was playing in the first 2 weeks, that Derek Carr could have maybe done it. But dude, his Oakland years in 2015 and 2016 in particular were absolutely dominant. And then you also want to talk about the Las Vegas years, 2021, when he had almost 5,000 passing yards. When Derek Carr was in his prime, people tend to forget that he was a baller. He was definitely a solid quarterback for the Raiders.
With the Saints' future looking as dim as it ever has. They hired Super Bowl champion offensive coordinator Kellen Moore to be the team's next head coach, and while that could work out in the long run, right now specifically, the Saints are in a bad situation. And in today's video, we are starting today's video by discussing how we got here with the New Orleans Saints, and to make a long story short, they never committed to a full rebuild after Drew Brees retired after the 2020 season, and have been trying to get back to the playoffs to make a run since.
I will say, and I don't condone Mickey Loomis's GM practices as it stands right now. Mickey Loomis hasn't really been through a situation like this before. He has been through a true rebuild, and that was all the way back in like 2004 and 2005, I want to believe, when the Saints were on the decline with Aaron Brooks, and we had one of the worst years in franchise history, going like 3-13, I think it was, in 2005. Mickey Loomis said, you know what? Wipe the slate clean. We're starting fresh. We're getting younger. We're getting a new head coach in Sean Payton. Fired our head coach to get Sean Payton, and then that's when we signed the biggest free agent signing in NFL history, Drew Brees. A couple years later, we would get key pieces like Jonathan Vilma and Marcus Colson and Reggie Bush and all those guys that ended up making us contenders for a decade in the making. But that's all because Mickey Loomis did decide to just wipe the slate clean after those bad couple of years, 2004, 2005 in particular. So Mickey has gone through a true rebuild, but after that, it's been one bad decision after another. Part of it, most of it, is his fault. Some of it was Sean Payton's refusal to want to be a part of a rebuilding team. Yin and yang, they're fighting back and forth with each other, trying to decide the future of this team. Ends up being that no one decides the future of this team, and we're stuck in a limbo state, which is the worst state you want to be in sports. So it's just pretty unfortunate, but I'm just setting the record straight that Mickey is in a tough spot right now. It's just the way he's handling it is bad.
They started out with a 5-2 record in 2021 with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback before Jameis tore his ACL in a game against the Bucs.
That was such an unfortunate year. Jameis was looking so good.
Unfortunately, injuries happened, and that more or less derailed the 2021 Saints season, and after starting out 5-2, they proceeded to lose 5 games in a row to fall to 5-7 before eventually finishing 9-8. That was the final year under former head coach Sean Payton, and Dennis Allen took over in 2022.
And things got rough. Yeah, I definitely want to forget this 2022 year for sure.
After the 2022 season, it made a lot of sense to, well, everyone, I guess, except for general manager Mickey Loomis, to start rebuilding and to trade away players like...
Dude, I'll say, he's saying after the 2022 season, it made sense to rebuild. I'm saying after Drew Brees leaves, to plan your rebuild ahead of time. A lot of teams around the league know that you have to plan your rebuild ahead of time when you know that you're on the cusp of getting ready to start the decline. You got teams like Green Bay, who will draft their future quarterback ahead of time before their superstar quarterback leaves. Jordan Love replaces Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings did the same thing. JJ McCarthy replaces Kirk Cousins. Now, granted, JJ McCarthy got hurt, so you get another bridge quarterback in Sam Darnold. But now, JJ McCarthy's ready to step in. The Patriots, Drake May replaces Tom Brady after a couple of bridge years. You see what I'm saying? A lot of these franchises know that you have to know when to start a rebuild. Mickey Loomis, after the first time he did it, forgot how to do this. Now, part of the reason, like I said earlier, is because Sean Payton refused to be on a rebuilding team. And the Saints were still competent, obviously, with Drew Brees. At some point, you got to realize that even though we're still competent, you got to plan ahead. And Sean Payton was not allowing Mickey Loomis to plan ahead. The 2019 draft was exceptional, but there was never a moment where Sean Payton was like, okay, let's get another rookie quarterback in so that we can have him sit under Drew Brees and develop him for when Drew Brees retires, or let's get some more young guys to come in so that I can build up an offensive scheme so that when Drew Brees leaves, we're already set to go with the next set of guys. Or in case I ever decide to retire as a head coach or leave as a head coach for whatever reason, the next guy that comes in has a great group of guys ready to work with. We never really did that. We had an awesome draft in 2019, but then after that, it was missed draft picks after missed draft picks after missed draft picks, on top of the fact that we just kept putting band-aids on older guys that were making us mediocre to okay at best, but allowed us to kind of stay in the race. Like re-signing Cam Jordan, who's on the way out because he's getting older. Bringing in Tyrann Mathieu in free agency, who's already left his prime. Bringing in Marcus May in free agency, who's already left his prime. On top of letting other guys leave for basically nothing, like CJ Gardner-Johnson or Marcus Williams. So it's just a lot of miscues because of a debacle between your GM and your head coach and not planning for the future, on top of missing your draft picks. So it's a lot of bad domino effects falling over and over and over again when you're trying to fix a broken present that just ends up inevitably failing.
Like Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara, and to get what you can for them before it's too late, before they lose their trade value. But Mickey Loomis had a 20 at the blackjack table in terms of limited cap space, an aging roster.
Again, most of it Mickey Loomis's fault, but I understand that Sean Payton was a big thorn in his side right there.
And a not great head coach, and said, hit me, and gave Derek Carr a $150 million contract, and not surprisingly,
one of the worst signings in Mickey Loomis's career by far, if not the worst signing in Mickey Loomis's career. Now, granted, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We were this close to signing Deshaun Watson. Let's keep that in mind, Saints fans. All the Saints fans out there that hate Derek Carr, we were this close for Deshaun Watson.
The Saints have not made the playoffs since Derek Carr became a New Orleans Saint, and Dennis Allen has since been fired. And if you know anything about how Mickey Loomis operates around the salary cap with the Saints, well, there's usually no vision for tomorrow, and it's all about today. And I respect that to a degree, because you have to win games, and no team actively wants to go through a rebuild. But when you look at this roster and you look at what guys are getting paid, especially for their age and their contribution at this point, it's not wrong to say this is incredibly poor general managing of the roster.
Yeah, I agree. He put it perfectly, on top of the fact that it's not just bad general managing, it's bad mentality, right? Because Mickey Loomis thinks, okay, the Saints as a franchise have had incredible success with signing superstar caliber guys in free agency. Why don't we just keep doing that? That doesn't always happen. You can't always do that. There's not always going to be that superstar level guy that you can get in free agency that you know is going to be a hit for the next couple of years. Mostly positions of need, right? Free agency is about a team need, not team value. The draft is for team value. So part of the problem has been that because we've missed on so many draft picks and we haven't gotten any team value, well, we have to get our team needs somewhere, so that's been through free agency, which is why we spend so much money and our cap is so ruined. And I want to go back to the Derek Carr contract for a second, because I have no personal vendetta against Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr. He's a good guy. He was a baller with Oakland. He's a solid quarterback. He's the kind of guy that can run your offense to a degree that is capable of just getting by. And if he's on a absolutely loaded team, then you can contend. He's like a better Jimmy Garoppolo or a better Kirk Cousins or a better Geno Smith. You know, he's a game manager. He's the perfect example of a good game manager. But that's not going to cut it when you're paying him $150 million. When you pay a quarterback that much money, you need to say, okay, you need to be more than just a good game manager. You need to be exceptional, right? That's a lot of money for a quarterback. Baker Mayfield's making less than that. And Baker Mayfield is arguably a top 15, top 10 quarterback in the league. You got to be better than that if you're making that much money. And I know part of it is, okay, well, the Saints have a bad roster, so how much of it falls on Derek Carr? That's true. You can't put too much hate on the Derek Carr, because Derek Carr hasn't had the opportunity to show how good he could truly be. But if you're being paid that much money, you still got to make something happen. Now, again, I have no personal hate against Derek Carr. I think he's good. I just don't think he's going to get any team to that next level of competing unless your team is absolutely stacked, which the Saints are far from. And if you're making that much money, you got to show me something. Derek Carr just hasn't really shown us anything. Now, granted, he's gone through injuries and the offensive line's been awful. So again, can't put it all on Derek Carr, but you got to put some of it on him if he's making that much money. That's my take on it.
Derek Carr is what he is as a player, and he should have never received a $150 million contract. And I think he was the missing
Crazy that he pointed that out. It's bar for bar what I just said.
piece between the Saints going to the Super Bowl and where they were at the time of the signing, to me, was always ridiculous. You can at least try it.
That's a very good point. We were never close to competing, and we decided, you know what, let's just give Derek Carr all this money. Ruin the cap, ruin our future for the next couple years. That's a great point.
You can say that it was an upgrade at the quarterback position if you really want to, though I know Saints fans are sick of Derek Carr, but one move that
What I will say is it was an upgrade at the quarterback position, but you got to think that I don't think it really mattered what quarterback we had when Sean Payton was with us, because dude, Sean Payton's a quarterback whisperer. He really is. He's doing it with Bo Nix right now. He did it with Drew Brees all those years, and granted, Drew Brees was one of the best quarterbacks to ever live, so I think most of it was Drew Brees lifting up Sean Payton, but Sean Payton's still a really good head coach. He still makes teams look really good offensively, and he's, like I said, doing it right now with Bo Nix. So if Sean Payton was still with us, I don't think it would have mattered what quarterback we had, which is why I think it was dumb we gave Derek Carr all that money when Sean Payton left, because Dennis Allen, like Mickey, you got to know your personnel. And Mickey didn't know his personnel, obviously, because Dennis Allen was never ready for a head coaching position. Let's put that aside. You know Dennis Allen's not going to be able to elevate a quarterback game like that because he's not offensive minded. So why would you pay someone who's just okay / good as a game manager that much money, knowing he's not going to get any better because A, he's past his prime, and B, he doesn't have a coach like a Kevin O'Connell or a Sean Payton to elevate him to the next step, make his offensive weapons even better than they already are.
What was really bad that is still affecting the Saints to this day was giving a 34-year-old Cam Jordan a 2-year extension that was fully guaranteed, worth $28 million. Now,
yeah, this made no sense. Listen, I love Cam Jordan. He's one of the greatest Saints to ever live. I think most Saints fans will agree on that. Not just as a player, but as a person. I feel like everyone I know has met Cam Jordan because he's everywhere in the community and he's such a wholesome guy. And he's funny too. Cam Jordan's hilarious. Cam Jordan, he's an amazing dude and he's an amazing player. But at 34 years old, when you know he's already walking out, why extend him? And not just extend him, overpay him. Come on, Mickey.
Not surprisingly, in the trenches, and after playing over 12,000 career snaps, Cam Jordan is not the player he was in his prime. And he had a year you would expect a 14-year veteran to have in 2024, as he really declined from the player he was even 3 or 4 years ago, yet is on the hooks for $20 million in 2025, and this is per
You can't get rid of that contract.
I fully realize Cam is an 8-time Pro Bowler and should undoubtedly receive a phone call the minute he retires, letting him know he will be inducted into the Saints Ring of Honor the following year after his retirement, preferably at halftime in a game against the hated division rival Falcons, but this was an
That's really funny. Shadow football analysis for that. That's really funny.
Egregiously terrible decision by Mickey Loomis to extend Cam Jordan and hurt the cap in the process, even despite the cap going up as time goes on.
And you know, I think part of the reason why he made the decision he did is because he missed on all the picks to replace Cam Jordan. We haven't had a good edge rusher to replace him. Marcus Davenport, solid player, he's gone. And not only gone for nothing. We didn't trade him or for any value or anything. He just left, right? Then you got Peyton Turner. Oh my God, Peyton Turner's a bust. Isaiah Foskey. Why did we draft Isaiah Foskey? You know what I'm saying? These are guys that had no tape value coming out of college that would translate into pro. We drafted them anyways because they're big, strong dudes that can bulldoze anyone on the defensive line. You need more than that, right? You need a move set. You need speed. You need athleticism. You need defensive-minded IQ. These things he just didn't look for in any of the defensive linemen we tried to get to replace Cam Jordan. Brian Brzee doesn't count. He plays on the inside.
And when you look at the Saints cap situation, it's obviously not good for several reasons. This information will be either from Over the Cap or Spotrac.com. $50.7 million in dead cap, which is 4th in the NFL. For those who may not know, what that means is they are paying previous players a total of $50.7 million in 2025 to not play for the Saints. Obviously, you want as little dead cap money as possible, but it's not enough for the Saints to have that amount of money going towards players not playing for the team. They're also dead last in cap space at the time of this video release, as they're $46 million over the cap right now. The 3 biggest dead cap hits they have is Marshawn Lattimore with a whopping $31.6 million dead cap hit.
It's egregious. It's egregious. And we could have traded him in the offseason and we didn't.
Yes, the receiver, Michael Thomas, has a dead cap hit of $9.1 million, and Jameis Winston has a dead cap hit of $7.3 million. One of my biggest frustration with the Saints and the way they run their accounting books, if you will, is the way they manipulate the cap. You may hear on social media that the cap isn't real, and despite the lack of on-field results, I think the Saints are actually a pretty good example of that. And what I mean by this is right now, Derek Carr, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, and Chase Young, who is a free agent by the way, are
not anymore as of recording this video. He signed a 3-year extension, which again is just kind of proving his point of cap manipulation. Chase Young was good for us last year, although, let's be honest, some Saints fans would say that he was good, but it didn't look like he was good on the field. When you look at the eye test, his stats were good, but those were against bummy teams that he put up those stats, so it's just kind of weird to see that he's getting an extension, me personally speaking. Proving his point, the cap manipulation of the restructures with Derek Carr's contract and all that stuff, like, it's making it worse and worse and worse and putting more band-aids on a problem that needs to just straight up either amputate, surgery, cut clean, you know, all that stuff.
Are scheduled to make $91.7 million cumulatively from the Saints in 2025. So what the Saints will do, and why I am so frustrated with the way their organization is, they will have void years for players and restructure contracts, which in the simplest terms converts their salaries to a bonus that can be prorated over the remaining years of the contract for salary cap purposes.
Literally, you can look at Spotrac. Every single player on this team, except for guys on rookie deals, have void years. Every single player. You can look at Spotrac. It's guys like Chase Young, who just got re-signed. I think he still has a void year in his contract with the re-sign. Tyrann Mathieu has a void year. Demario Davis has a void year. Juwan Johnson also got re-signed, but I think that's also including a void year in the last year of his deal to, I think it was a 3-year deal. Like, I could go on and on and on, but it's just ridiculous.
And this is a large reason why the Saints' job was so unattractive to begin with after they fired Dennis Allen. The reality is you almost have to give up a year,
Kellen Moore,
2025, just to have a chance to get the books right for 2026. And then you throw in the fact the new head coach has to work with Derek Carr for at least a year, rather than potentially drafting their future franchise quarterback. And
which, even if Derek Carr or whatever bridge quarterback was on the roster, it wouldn't matter because Mickey Loomis wouldn't draft a quarterback in the first round. You can look it up. We haven't drafted a quarterback in decades. I think it's literally been since the 80s or the 70s or whatever it is. I forget the stat. We just don't draft first round quarterbacks. We don't. Maybe it's just a curse on New Orleans that any GM to walk into these walls says we don't need to draft the first round quarterback because we're so good at signing free agents. Doesn't matter. Still need to do it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
And in 2026, at least at the moment, because we know the Saints will certainly manipulate the cap again, you will have Derek Carr and what will be a 31-year-old Alvin Kamara on the books for a combined $80 million. All of this to say is why I've been frustrated with the Saints for multiple years.
Notable cap hits in 2025 per over the cap. Derek Carr's $50 million, Cam Jordan's $20 million, Taysom Hill's $18 million. That is absurd for a tight end. Like, I get Taysom Hill is more than just a tight end to this organization. Saints fans love him. I love him. And I think part of the reason why now that I'm bringing this up, part of the reason why Mickey Loomis might do these contracts and hit us with these band-aids is because I know he's a smart guy. He sees what's going on in Saints chat rooms and podcasts and radio talk shows. These people always talk about, oh, these guys are so nice. They deserve their bag. Give them their money. And then he does it. There is maybe 2 tight ends in the league I would pay that much money to.
This isn't a situation that got like this overnight. And it's okay when you're winning games back in 2017, 2018, and 2019 when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and a really good head coach. And I'm not taking a shot at Sean Payton not getting in the Hall of Fame by saying a really good coach. It's just that head coaches getting into the Hall of Fame is really weird.
Sure.
But the point is, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr and even Kellen Moore and Derek Carr do not put band-aids over the problems the way Sean Payton and Drew Brees once did. Now, usually when we do videos discussing teams' outlooks and what they can do moving forward, realistically that is, we usually talk about the teams in their division quite a bit, and that's because that makes up over a third of their schedule. I acknowledge the trajectory of both the Falcons and Panthers are going to be on the rise entering 2025. I don't think the Panthers are head and shoulders above the Saints at the moment.
The experience versus the young talent. The Panthers have way more young talent, so eventually they're going to end up being way better than us. Right now, kind of safely say that we can split the series between the Panthers. We have guys that know how to win right now compared to Panthers guys who are still new, trying to develop, trying to learn new schemes under new coaching staffs, all that stuff. And I know Panthers are made incredible moves in free agency this year so far, but the Saints and the Panthers, they're kind of here and here almost. They're almost identical in terms of being bad. The Panthers have so much more potential, whereas the Saints are dead stuck. We'll see what happens in 2025, but if I had to guess, they're going to split the series. We're talking about, if I'm assuming he's going to talk about the Falcons and the Bucks too, but the Falcons and the Bucks, we're going to get rolled by them. But when you look at the foreseeable future, which is what this video is about, the Bucks could be on the downfall soon, right? They got a lot of older guys, including Mike Evans. I know they just re-signed everyone, like Chris Godwin's coming back. It's like a Saints situation, except the Bucks are actually good, right? So like a lot of these guys are going to be gone soon, and then hopefully that's when the Saints can step in and be better than the Bucks. The Panthers have more potential. When it comes to next season, they'll probably split, get swept by the Bucks, but the Saints, hopefully if we start to move in the right direction, will be better than the Bucks soon. And then the Falcons, I mean, I hate having to play against this Falcons team for the next decade, because you got Bijan. I hate that Bijan went to Atlanta. Michael Penix is looking to be really good, and they're so young with so many incredible pieces that Atlanta's scary, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Atlanta's scary. We'll see what happens with Atlanta, but we're probably gonna get mollywopped every year by Atlanta.
But the reason I am concerned for the Saints entering 2025 is, while I don't think they're a good team by any means, and I would never choose this team to go on the road to a Philly, LA Rams, Detroit, or wherever to go win a road playoff game, much less 3 in a row, I don't think they are bottom of the NFC finish with a top 2 pick bad.
That's fair. That's fair. There's a lot of bad teams right now in the NFC.
And I would argue the Saints are in the worst position in sports at the moment, and I think Derek Carr plays a pretty significant part within that, and Mickey Loomis for that matter too. I just don't think there's any way that Mickey Loomis, given that he's been with the Saints organization since the year 2000, looks at this roster regardless of what they do this offseason, because remember, they're always going to be limited financially, at least with how Mickey Loomis runs the organization, and thinks to himself, you know what? This team is going to win 13 games and shock everyone, and we're going to bring this city a Super Bowl. I don't buy it. And with 2 of the 3 teams in the division in a clear rebuild mode, that's a dangerous situation to be in, because you can...
I mean, he put it almost perfectly. You got 2 out of the 4 teams in your division currently rebuilding, and you're stuck in limbo thinking that you can win with a team that is clearly not capable of winning, because it's shown to you multiple years in a row now that this team can't win. I don't care that this team has had so many injuries, you haven't been able to see the full capabilities. No, this team just straight up can't win. Free agency's for needs, draft is for team value and potential. When you miss on your draft picks, that means that your team's most likely going to end up being bad. So what do you need the needs for? Just save the money. Look at the Patriots. The Patriots are a perfect example. The Patriots are a bar for bar perfect example. You know what they use their money for? They use their money for cheap value contracts on veteran guys that can come in and teach the younger guys about the sport. Teach them how to be better. Teach them how to be a leader. Teach them how to progress in their development. Teach them how to get along with their coaching staff. They're not there to compete or win because they know they're not going to compete or win. They're just there on good contracts to show the younger guys a better time in the league. And then you go out and you hit on your draft picks like the Patriots are doing right now. And look, all of a sudden, this team with Drake May, who knows what's going to happen with the Patriots? You know who else is a perfect example of this? The Commanders.
But with the uncertainty around really every skill position on offense at the moment, and with not great drafting over the course of the last few years.
Not great drafting is a very lenient way to put it, football analysis. I really, as a Saints fan, I appreciate you for being nice, but you could put it bluntly. It sucked.
So what can the Saints actually do to get out of this mess? And I mean, realistically, well, per overthecap.com, they can restructure Derek Carr, which is to...
Well, they already did. They already did do that. He's saying what they could do to fix the issue with the cap is restructure Derek Carr's contract to get under the cap and then just don't sign anyone. But we didn't do that. We restructured Derek Carr's contract to re-sign Chase Young and to sign Justin Reed in free agency. Top safety in the league right now, in my opinion. Should we have signed him to a multi-year deal? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
To restructure Cam Jordan to Taysom Hill too, and I wouldn't be surprised if they designate Taysom Hill as a post-June 1st cut, given that he will be 35 years old in August.
If we don't cut Taysom Hill by June 1st, I'm gonna be so upset. Or my bad, not by June 1st, after June. If we don't cut Taysom Hill is what I'm trying to say, I'm gonna be upset.
They'll also have
Tyrann Mathieu too.
to restructure a couple of other players, whether it's Demario Davis or Carl Granderson or both, and go from there. And they'll also have to make a decision on Tyrann Mathieu at some point, and my best guess, in terms of what the Saints actually plan to do at this point, is to use 2025 as a get-right year and focusing on building a better team in 2026.
But that's not what we did. We just restructured and did more of the same, put more band-aids on, get more of our team needs, because we needed a strong safety. We needed an edge, so we keep Chase Young, you know, and it's just like, come on, man.
But right now, with the Saints having 4 picks in the top 100, 3 of their own and 1 from the Marshawn Lattimore trade with the Commanders, I really believe their best bet is to try and draft someone like Armand Membou in the first round of pick 9.
Armand Membou would be sick. I agree with him fully.
Draft someone like a Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, who would help the run defense in a big way in the second round if he's there, and go with the best player available with their third round picks at any of the edge, tight end, or receiver positions, and go from there.
Or running back.
Rebuilding the Saints the right way is going to take time, and it's almost inevitable that 2025 is going to be a reset year for them. There's a lot of bad money on the roster right now, and unfortunately for the Saints, it's going to take some time to get rid of the bad money and to ultimately build for a better tomorrow.
Great video. Again, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. Shout out Football Analysis. We'll see what happens in 2026, because most likely 2025 will end up being a bust, if I had to guess. It all depends on what we hit on our draft picks as well. I think he said it best, Armand Membou. I'm also huge on receiver because we desperately need receiver. I wouldn't mind a receiver in the first round or the second round. And defensive end, we desperately need edge. I would be down for Mykel Williams. Would be a sick player to get. I'm a big Nick Gordon believer. If you guys like the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.